Welcome, guys. I'm Ryan Archer. I'm from San Marcos, California, which is about 30 minutes north of San Diego. I'm an ed tech coordinator there. I taught for 16 years. I was a middle school science teacher and a high school chemistry teacher. And then I had the opportunity to move into the technology world, and so I made that jump 3 years ago as a teacher on special assignment, and now I'm a coordinator where I kind of coordinate things in our district. So we're going to go through kind of our transition from having no bring your own device, we were a district where we had pictures and signs all over campus that said, no cell phones, turn your cell phones off. It has to be in your backpack and turned off and you can't use it. To we're just piloting now, but we have a few schools that are having the kids bring their own device. They're on our Wi-Fi and the kids are using it, and so far it's been pretty successful. So we're gonna go through those steps. Up on the screen, I've got the link there, which will take you to the slide deck if you want to follow along with that. So today, for our BYOD plan, our light is green. So I've told a lot of our teachers that this stoplight system is pretty good. So if it's red, I want your device off. I like to have it on your desk and face down. That way we know where it is. If it's yellow, it's face down, and you can ask me if you want to use it. And green means it's open for use. We just want you to stay on task. So that's where we are today. So go ahead, if you haven't already, get out your device, go to either Kahoot.it, or if you have a barcode reader, you can scan. I think it's big enough. When I go to the next slide here, you can go ahead and scan that, and it'll take you directly there. What we're going to do is a little quick pre-quiz on an animal cell. So I know it's Saturday morning, you guys are like, oh, we're in Napa Valley, went out last night. But you came to the early session, so we're going to go through a little bit of science, because everyone loves science. So if you haven't gone to Kahoot.it or scanned the code yet, go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and get into Kahoot. So it'll give you a join code here in a second. So there's your join code, it's 262063. Now, as a teacher, you can take or leave the sound. You can actually turn off the sound. I think it's kind of fun, but after a while, it gets really annoying really quickly. So first time you use it, maybe you play it, and then you may mute it after a while. You can see your name should be popping up there. So once your name is in, that means that you've been accepted by Kahoot to go ahead and play our game. Now, as a teacher also, if someone puts in a fake name or a name I'm not happy with, if I click on their name, it'll get rid of them. So on your device, it would kick you off. You could get back in, and you can put a real name in. What I've seen teachers do is, the thing just says put in a nickname. So the teachers usually say, put in your real name. I want to be able to know who you are. So just, I'm going through here. Just want to make sure that everyone's on where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start the game now. There's 5 questions. Okay, it's all about the animal cell. So it'll go through on its own. So here's the first question. And there's your answer choice. You're going to match your shape and color on your device. I like the dramatic music. And it will advance on its own once we either hit everyone with an answer or the time runs out. It's set right now, I think, on 30 seconds. I've been to lots of trainings, and we almost never get all the answers, but in this one we did, so good job. Hey, and right now, remember, you have just fake names in, or you have your name in, but we don't really care who it is. So I know as a teacher that 10 of you know what that is already, and 2 of you don't. And then to make it kind of a more fun game, it gives us a score. Now, the score is based on time and correctness. So the faster you are, the more points you get. So the weird teach, good job. Okay, here's question number 2. Also, where it says Kahoot right here, I can put in an image. So if I wanted to put a picture of the animal cell and point to what it is, I could do that, or whatever topic you're using. So there's our answers. Okay, so that one I know, and this is a pre-quiz, so don't feel bad if you're getting it wrong, right? This is like 7th grade science and high school biology, so if you've forgotten, that's okay. And so we'll see how our leaderboard looks. Oh, Amanda has taken the lead. Oh, actually, yeah, okay. Amanda's the lead. I thought it was a tie there. Here's question 3. If you've done a cell model with your kids, like your own kids, you probably know what this cell, this jelly-like stuff is. You should have an advantage over here, right? No? Somebody's unsure of their answer out there. Oh, there we go. Okay, oh, see, most everyone knows that one. Good job. Let's check our leaderboard. Amanda's still holding the lead. Here's question 4. Almost done. People feel pretty confident in this one. The answers are coming much quicker. Good job. Oh, 100%. So now as a teacher, I know I don't need to go over that one. Okay, and last question. Oh, Amanda, you got that one quick. Oh, look at 1 point difference right now. And only a 2-point difference between the weird teach. So you guys are all pretty close. Let's see who gets this last one. Got nervous thumbs out there right now. Fast answers. Okay, good. So you guys actually are pretty good on the animal cell. So as a teacher, I know going into this that we can go through this session pretty quick. So at the end, oh, James took the lead from Amanda. Last question. So good job, James. If I had a prize, I'd throw it to you, but I don't. You can stay for the rest of the day. And I'll provide lunch. Just go up to Building D at lunchtime. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so it gives James, it shows his high score. He got all 5 correct, obviously. And then as a teacher, I could go to feedback and results, and I can get, well, I'm sorry, this is where you guys would rate it. I don't really care about that as much, but I can see the final results. And then I can get a couple of different data points off of this. But Kahoot isn't great for that. Kahoot is good for a quick assessment. It's great for an exit ticket, right? It's like a last 5 minutes of class, you throw up a couple questions, kids get on their device and you do a quick game to see where they are as they're walking out the door. So I'm going to get out of that, get back to this presentation. Okay, so now I have my pre-assessment done, and now we're going to talk about the animal cell. So now I'm into my lesson. I'm going to teach my class. Okay, so we don't want to do that on a Saturday morning in Napa Valley at Fall Q. So I just put up the image here. But what I would do with my class is I might send them to Quizlet. Has anyone used Quizlet before? Okay, good. So again, with your device, we're still green light on the device. Go ahead and take your device, either scan the code, or you can type in the shortened URL. Remember, this is a Google one, so it's a case sensitive. I tried to find one that didn't have any L's in it, because L's and 1s are way too hard to tell. So once you scan this, it will take you to a site called Quizlet. And then we'll probably fast forward this a little bit. But you're going to use the flashcard section, the scatter section, and then the test. And the reason I'm having you do that is just so you can see what your students could do. In our BYOD pilot in our district, a lot of teachers are using Quizlet because it's super easy to use. You'll see when you get there. So I've put in our 5 key terms with their definitions. And so it has the key term on one side. You can flip it over, and it gives you the definition. So you can kind of quiz yourself. There's different settings you can do on that too. You can make it where it has the word and the definition on one card, so it's easier for you to study. Then you're going to go to the scatter one, which is what most kids like to do. Scatter will give you like a grid. It's kind of like matching, and you match them as fast as you can. And then it times you. So when I first did it, it was like at 24 seconds. I got it down to 14. This morning, 8.89. It's like, yeah, I've done it enough times to get better. But what I've seen in the classrooms when I go out there and ask kids what they're doing, kids are just zipping through it all. And one of our middle school teachers gives them 2 words every day. And they type in their own words. So they're creating their own Quizlet. So they put in the word, they put in the definition, and then they kind of quiz themselves. And then they go to the scatter part, and that gives them a game so they can do it. There's also one, if you're on a computer, it works better, where the definition scrolls across, and you have to type in the definition. But I thought with cytoplasm and nucleus, those are all kind of those weird sciencey words that not everyone spells correctly. I spell nucleus wrong still, and I've taught science for a long time. So that's another fun game you can play. And then the test I put on there because you can set it up. You can have multiple choice, which was what most websites will give you. But you can also have fill in the blank. You can have true, false. So there's some different games that you can play in there which are pretty fun. You just pop a QR code up on the board, maybe for a warm-up when they come into class. They do it real quick. They're doing their definitions for 10 minutes, and then you move on. This middle school teacher has done it with the SAT words, and so she's got her grade level words, and she's going through, and when they get, I was kind of surprised at this, when they get to 50, they're going to have a real test. It's like, man, that's a lot of words to have to remember. So I talked to a kid who was kind of off in the corner on his own. He wasn't working with a group. I said, well, how do you feel about that? He goes, oh, I know all the words, it's fine. Okay, great. So, I don't know what his test score will be, but he seems pretty confident in what he's doing. So Quizlet is a pretty fun little game that you can play. And again, I think it's a lot more powerful when you let the kids do it rather than you providing it for you. I'm saving time today by having me do it. Oh, one last thing. When you're on the main screen, it'll give you the word with the definition. And there's a little audio icon next to it. So what this teacher did too is she said, okay, let Siri say it to you, or let your computer say it, and put it in a weird accent. So there's like all kinds of weird accents. Luke this, and they're talking to him, and the kids are kind of giggling and laughing and hearing all the different words. Is everyone good with Quizlet for now? I'm going to move on to our next thing. I like the elementary school teachers out there gave me a thumbs up. All the high school teachers are like, yeah, I'm good. Okay, and then the last thing, and then we'll talk about actual BYOD, is Socrative. Now, be careful because you'll hear people call it Socrative. And we talked to some people who actually work there, and they told us, they assured us it's Socrative. But we have a couple teachers on special assignment, and one of them said Socrative, and I thought, I'm totally going to say it wrong today. But so I got it right, Socrative, like a Socratic seminar. So this is another tool which you can do. So when you scan this or you type in the shortened URL, my room number or my room name is Fall Q15. So the first thing it'll do is ask you to type in my room number. And then you'll get to like a little, I don't know, what is it, a hexagon? Kind of does this. And it's waiting for me as a teacher to do something. So after you guys are done scanning the barcode here, the QR code, I'll go to Socrative, and we'll get that started too. So now as a teacher, I gave you a pre-assessment. This may not all be on one day, right? This might be over a week. So on Monday, I gave you the Kahoot just as a fun one to see what you knew. We did some lessons, we did a lab, we did some activities in class. Then we worked on the Quizlet throughout the week. And now we're on Thursday or Friday, and I want to see where we are. Okay, so I'm going to get out of the presentation and go into Socrative. And so I'm on the teacher side. And so just to make it fun, I can do another quiz, same type of things. Right? It has true, false, multiple choice, fill in the blank. You guys have already done that with Quizlet, so I don't want to do that now. So to make it more fun, especially because it's Thursday or Friday in my class, I'm going to do a space race. Okay, so in here, I select the quiz, and I've already gone in and created the quiz. I'm going to select my number of teams. Let's go with maybe 8 teams. I'm going to let the computer pick who the teams are, because as a teacher, I don't care right now. Right now, I just want to give you guys the words one more time before we take a real assessment. Okay, and then I have these different choices, and it's fun. Let's be unicorns today. Okay, so I'm going to hit start. So on your screen, it's going to ask you for your name. Again, you can put in whatever name you want. We're adults. Okay? Then it's going to go right into the questions, and it's going to advance at your speed. And you're one of these teams. Okay, so your names are up there as far as colors, and on your device, it shows you your color. So we can see that blue just took a huge lead. Right, magenta's coming in. There goes peach. Oh, here goes indigo. I shouldn't have picked 8 teams. Those are some weird colors. It's like the chupacabra on Google. Okay, so blue's still out in the lead. Magenta's coming up. Here comes indigo. So as you're going through the questions, whatever team you are and your color is on your device, you can kind of root for yourself, and you don't know who your other teammates are right now. It might just be you. But there's 6 questions on this one, so if you get all 6 right, you'll cross the finish line. Oh, magenta and blue are getting close here. Who is going to be the winner? Oh, magenta is our winner. Congratulations, magenta. And again, I don't need to know who it is. When I hit finish, I can go to view chart, and I'm going to zoom in, but maybe I'm not going to zoom in. I'm going to put your names there. The names that you put in are over on the left, and I can go through and see what you got right, what you got wrong. And not everyone finished because it was a race and we had a finisher. And so I stopped the game at that point. But I could let the whole thing go out until every unicorn crosses the line, and then I would know who got what right and who, where I need to go back and do some more reteaching. So again, that's another fun tool for the kids to play with. And I can do it as a quiz, and actually, I can actually get data from this one, and it might go into the grade book. You just want to let the kids know what you're going to do. Okay, so what did we just do? We went through 3 different tools. We did Kahoot for fun, we did Quizlet for learning, and then we did Socrative as an end or an exit ticket. Okay, none of those were apps. You didn't have to log into any of them. You didn't have to create a username and password. Okay, and that's key for BYOD, because right now I don't know what devices you have. I see some Apples because they light up at me. I see some people lifting up devices. They might be Androids, they might be iPhones, they might be iPads. I don't know. I don't know what app works on your computer compared to your tablet, compared to someone else's phone. So I want to try to stay away from apps as much as possible because apps are unreliable as far as cross-platform. I want to be as device agnostic as possible. So all 3 of these are great tools for that. I'll give you guys some documentation at the end where you can take it and use it and change it and give it to your district, and it has some of the tools in there. And it has like a quick description of how you can use it and what it's good for. Is it good for just iOS, or is it good for iOS and Android? Is it good on a Chromebook, or just a PC, or a Mac? So I'll give you all that information at the end. Okay, so I'm going to go over a quick little story about my trip here to Fall Q. So a couple months ago, I saw, hey, you can present at Fall Q, so I fill out an application. And then I wait a couple weeks or whatever it is, and I get, hey, you've been accepted. So I go online. I book a hotel, I book a flight, I get a car reservation, I'm ready to go. So Thursday rolls around, okay, pack my bag, off to Fall Q. I didn't leave with one piece of paper. I brought my phone, right? Everything is on my phone, thankfully. So I get to the airport, I pull up my boarding pass, I hand it to the TSA agent, she scans it, checks my ID, I make it through. All right, didn't have to have a boarding pass really because it's on my phone. I get on the airplane, I'm Southwest, so I'm trying to take up as much space as possible so no one sits next to me. But I just have my dinky little phone. Next time I got to bring a whole computer and pull the tray down. I had somebody in the middle next to me. But I pull out my phone and I got on my Kindle app and I started reading. Right? Again, just my phone, didn't have to have a book. And I have a little up there. I put Candy Crush on my phone before I left. I tell my kids that this is my work phone and I don't have any games on it. So I'm going to have to delete Candy Crush before I get home because they'll see it. Because kids, they always see everything. I got to the airport, went to the rental car agency. I handed him my phone. He zoomed in on my confirmation number, typed me in, got my car. Got to the car. I thought, I've never been here before. I don't know where I'm going. So I go to Google Maps. I type in my hotel address and starts driving me to my hotel. I get to the hotel. I got my phone out. I'm ready. Here's my phone. She goes, we've got you, Mr. Archer. You're in the computer. I said, oh, okay. So I didn't need my phone for that one, but I was ready for it just in case. I called my wife to let her know I had arrived safely. I'm here. Drove over to the high school. I had to use maps again because I didn't know where the high school was. I walked into the office like you guys did. I scanned my phone, printed out a ticket, went outside. I got a bag. I was like, oh, it's all on my phone. I did a couple tweets, a couple texts, checked Voxer, checked to see if some of the people I knew were here. And then they weren't here yet, so I was like, oh, I'm hungry. Where should I eat? And I'm looking around outside. I'm like, there's cows. There's sheep. Where's a restaurant? So I go to Yelp, gives me all kinds of reviews, had a great dinner. So all that was on my phone. We've become so reliant on our devices that imagine if you walked in here today and we said, you got to leave your computers, leave your phones in the front office, you can't use them today. But that's what we're doing to our kids, right? They've got this powerful tool in their pocket that they can use for anything. And we say, don't use it though, because it's distracting. So we're going to look at maybe changing that whole model. Hey, we had a professional development recently with some science teachers and then pulled them out of the classroom and they came to talk about a lesson. And they brought a Chromebook, a MacBook, and iPads. Hey, it didn't matter. We were using Google Docs, so we had no problem. They were able to use their device and do what they wanted to do with it. Kids are the same way. This picture here shows, this is a picture I took at one of our elementary schools. They both had a cell phone and an iPad, and I was like, I didn't say anything to them, but I thought, wow, these kids have got it. I have a kindergartner and a third grader. They're begging me for a tablet. I've got tablets of my own, but I don't want to give them one because I'm not sure what they would use it for. So, but these teachers have figured out a way. What they were doing on this example was they had taken pictures with their phones, and then they were supposed to go back and put it into a Google Doc. Well, some of them had the school's computers, and so that made sense. These kids had their own iPads too. They actually had brought 2 devices to school, and so they asked the teacher if they could just use their iPads, and they did. And I didn't stay long enough to see the final product, but I'm sure it worked out just fine. Okay, so you're going to potentially go back to your schools and your district and say, you know what? I don't have one-to-one in my classroom. How can I get my kids to start to use their own devices in our classrooms? So you kind of have to go to your district and say, well, what are your district priorities in regards to technology? Do they want to be one-to-one? Maybe they don't. Some districts don't want it. I know there's a school in Silicon Valley somewhere where kids check their phones at the door on purpose because they're so connected everywhere else. They want them to have a non-device day at school. Our district wants to be one-to-one, but we have several issues with going one-to-one. So the first and foremost is cost, right? If you go up to your business services person and say, you know what, we need to be one-to-one in our district. The first thing they're going to do is go, yeah, that's great. For our district, it would cost, from where we are now, it would cost about $8 million to get all of our kids' devices. And we have about 20,000 students, and we have about 6,000 Chromebooks and about 1,000 iPads right now. So we're getting close to halfway there, and it would still cost $8 million more. The next thing is your device. What device are you going to use? Are you going to give Chromebooks to secondary kids and iPads to elementary? Or are you going to go iPads K2 and Chromebooks above that? Or maybe you go MacBooks, which cost more, but they do different things. Maybe you go PC. That whole discussion has to be had. We are highly invested in Chromebooks right now because they're easy. We're a Google district, so everything works pretty well with them. You have to discuss, are you going to take it home or are they going to stay? Do elementary kids leave it and secondaries take it home, or is it the opposite? And if they do take it home, you want to talk about insurance, because my little kindergartner, I took her to school the other day. They line up by this big fence, right? Their room number's up on the fence, and she goes, Daddy, watch. And she takes her backpack and she swings it around and throws it against the fence. I'm like, why is that cool? But, to a kid, that's pretty fun. So it's I'm dorky dad. If you'd have had a device in there, you may have broken it. She's like, see you later, Dad. And she went and ran off and did cardio. But that's what that's what kids do. We have to worry about that. So if we're going to buy the devices, we need to protect them. And then for insurance, do we do it within the district, or do we outsource insurance and let parents buy it on their own? And then you all know how it is with your technician, right? Right now, your computer breaks, and you probably put in a work order of some sort, and you wait, and you potentially wait longer and longer. Now, all of you guys are obviously tech lovers, and so hopefully you have a relationship with your tech at your site, and you can kind of grab them in the hallway and say, hey, I haven't put a tech request in yet, but could you fix this real quick, and I'll put it in after you leave? So that's great, but a lot of teachers don't. So imagine, I'm just thinking of one of our middle schools where we have about 1,500 kids. He's got 500 to 600 devices right now. If we went true one-to-one, he would go from 500 to 600 to 1,500 devices, plus all the teacher devices, plus the phones, plus TVs, or whatever else he's got. So our technicians are going to have a huge workload. And none of that takes into account that we have to refresh those computers every 3 to 5 years. Right? So that $8 million plus our other that we already have, we have to refresh those every 3 to 5 years. So that's obviously a problem. So then we think, well, okay, what makes BYOD better outside of cost? Well, what I like about it is the kid's going to have that device in their hand 365 days a year, 24/7. So as a teacher, if I'm on Google Classroom and I post an assignment on a Saturday, why I would be working on a Saturday, I don't know, but all teachers do. The kid will get a little pop-up, and if they're super motivated, they may start on it. Maybe I put it on over winter break. Maybe that's one of their assignments. Hey, over winter break, take 6 pictures of what you did, put together a Google presentation, and we're going to present it when you come back. Okay, no longer am I stuck to, I've got an hour with these kids in the day to do this work, or elementary, I got to figure out a section of my day where I'm going to do this. I can assign this, and these kids have these devices the whole time. They're also exposed to a variety of different devices. This picture here shows 4 different devices. It's a Chromebook, there's a Kindle Fire, an iPad, and an Android device. And this picture doesn't show it, but when they're sitting there, all the time they're looking over at someone else's, and they're like, well, what if you hit that? And they touch each other's devices a lot more than I'm comfortable with. But one kid, oh, let me fix that for you. I'm like, well, you just sneezed on your hand and you touched his device. And the other kid has doesn't even think about it. But they're learning different tools. So I've got an iPhone, you've got an Android. I have an iPad, you may have an Android tablet. And then, so if I'm all Apple, I don't know the other. And then when I go to, I get out of high school and I go to a job, I don't know what tools I'll have. But if I've had BYOD, I at least have seen the other things and I may have used them. Another thing is we all want our kids to become content creators, and with their own device, they have a better opportunity at that. In my classroom, I had a cart of netbooks, PC computers. And so we were able to do Google Docs just fine, Google presentations. We could do some Web 2.0 tools. But what happened when I had a science lab and I wanted them to take pictures? I told them to take out their phone and take pictures, email it to themselves, and put it in their Google presentation. Okay? I don't want them carrying their netbook with, it does have a camera on it. Take a picture of your reaction. Don't let it get wet. Okay? But with their own device, they could do it real quick. They could edit it, and they can zip it to me through Google Classroom pretty quickly. And then we all want our kids to have a personalized learning experience, and with devices, we would be able to push that out to them more often and more easily. So as our district started, we needed data, right? Everything we do is based off of data. And so we went to Project Tomorrow and the Speak Up survey. Have you guys done the Speak Up survey in your districts? You probably have heard of it if not. If not, it's something that you guys can all push out. It's open now for this year. And parents, administrators, students, teachers, they all can go on and fill out your data. And you'll get the results at the end of the year. So we looked at last year's data. And I'm just going to go through a couple of the points that were pretty useful for us. 75% of our secondary kids said that they thought it was very important to have their own device. And this is something I knew, I thought this number was low. When I was teaching 8th grade science, I would say, we need timers. Oh, I forgot timers. They all take out their phone. No problem, Mr. Archer, we got it covered. Oh, you guys didn't bring a calculator? I brought a calculator. Here it is. Okay. They all had their phones and they were dying to use them. And so we just, I kind of started sneaking on to letting them use their own devices. Teachers and admin. 86% of our teachers and 89% of our admin think that kids would be more engaged in school if they had a device. Now, that doesn't necessarily say that it's their own device, but we already went through how we can't necessarily afford giving them devices from our district right now. This picture here is a kid. They're on an iPad on the floor, obviously, but the teacher had put together a Google Doc, shared it out through Classroom, and it had a bunch of boxes. And every box had a letter. And they were going through and putting in adjectives for every letter. And they were shared with one other kid. And I was amazed at how engaged they were with that. I'm thinking, this is a pretty boring thing. This is really just a worksheet on a device now. And we used to have a saying, 80% of the kids, 80% of the time, they're active and attentive. All these kids were on task. She had to go around a couple of kids and redirect them, but for the most part, she said, "Here we go. Here's your assignment." They got their tablets, or some of them had computers. Someone went to the floor. Someone went to different places. They all got together, started working. I was pretty amazed by the whole thing. And then parents. What do parents think? 82% of the parents said that they think that the best place that the students will learn technology skills is in the classroom. And I forgot to mention this earlier, most of our data is pretty close to the national data. So our numbers were pretty close right on. So your district is probably pretty much the same thing. And then this was the one that shocked me the most. Only 16% of parents think that the district or the schools should buy the devices for the kids. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now I have a number that I could take that's from us. I can take that to our assistant superintendent of instruction and business services and say, hey, look, the parents think that we don't have to buy the devices. Let's let the kids bring them in. That's based on our survey data, but our survey data was pretty close to the national average. So you can ask for your exact numbers, but ours was pretty close. So then we went into the planning process. What do we need? And bandwidth is king, right? You've all been to most of you probably have been to Q conferences before, and we've been where, oh man, the bandwidth, the Wi-Fi is no good. Q's done a great job of stepping it up, and Wi-Fi is fantastic here. It was fantastic at Spring Q last year. My district has stepped up too. We were low. I can give you numbers, but it doesn't really matter right now. We were low, and then we started to ramp up because of Smarter Balance, right? Here comes the test. We've got to take this test, so let's increase the infrastructure. And so we did that. And then schools started buying more devices, and we opened up BYOD, so more stuff is coming in. And so now we need to increase again. Thankfully, with E-rate, you can do that less expensive. You can spend less on that. So you don't need to know about E-rate, but just mention that to someone in the district office. I'm sure they've already applied for it. You can get stuff at a cheaper rate and increase your bandwidth, but that's the most important thing. We have an access point like this one in all of our classrooms, and when those went in, the teachers were excited. I got an access point in my room. And I'm thinking the whole time, I wish you had two. Because we have kids, like those two kids in the elementary school picture where they had an iPad and a phone. Well, that's a kid bringing in two devices. So now we may have planned for enough bandwidth for one kid having a device, but now they're bringing in two, right? How many devices did you bring to Q today? Hey, I know I have a computer, I have a phone, I have an Android tablet, and I have an iPad. I'm not going to use them all at the same time, but potentially I could. Hey, kids have that. The other thing is you need a BYOD policy because we need to all speak the same language. It shouldn't be that a kid hears one thing from a teacher and a different thing from a principal. And so that's an important thing. We have a policy, and I'll give you all these documents at the end. You can take them, you can take our name off and put your name on. I don't really care. I didn't create them all. I modified them all. I got an email from Georgetown Independent School District in Texas. I found all their stuff, and she sent it all to me. She said, do whatever you want with it. So, that's what teachers do. We share stuff. So the BYOD policy is important. What is expected of a kid? If I bring a device, when can I use it? What should I do with it? Where should it be stored? And then communication is important too because we need to make sure that the district tells the principals tell the teachers tell the kids and the parents. Because if it all has the same verbiage, everyone's kind of covered on that one. Extra devices is a huge one, right? You're probably sitting there going, well, I got kids in my class who don't have a device. They're not going to bring one in. And we've had that problem. Luckily, in our district at elementary, LCAP brought 6 devices in every elementary school classroom. So if I have an elementary school teacher who's BYOD and she has 6 or fewer kids who can't bring one in, she can use those computers. Secondary is a little bit different. Language arts, we have a lot of devices. Math, we don't have a lot. We have 2 of our BYOD teachers who are French teachers. There's no push to give French teachers computers, right? They're not tested. So they've really done a good job of making it not cool, but not uncool if you don't have a device. So they let the students do the same exact projects, but on paper. So I went in, they were doing warm-ups, they were doing a blog. Kids were typing in on their blog to do their French blog. I had no idea what she was saying or what they were doing, but it looked good on devices. And another kid was sitting there writing on paper. So, oh, okay. So I talked to that kid after class. I said, well, do you feel uncomfortable about that? And I have no idea if he's going to talk to me honestly, but he said, no, it doesn't matter to me. It's like I have a device, but my mom won't let me bring it to school. I said, oh, okay. You probably broke a device earlier in your life. But extra devices are important, and you got to try to figure that out. That's a conversation you'd have to have with your site principal. We have carts that I would love to see put in the library. So I come in without a device that day. I go down to the library. I give them my student ID, and they check one out to me for the day. Right? I walk around. I use it all day, and I bring it back. That way I can be charged overnight, and if I need to, I can check it out again tomorrow. So we haven't moved to that model in our district, but I would love to see it. We also have some old netbooks that are old netbooks. And so doing some research, I would love to get my hands on a couple of those and try to make them into new Chromebooks. Chromebook doesn't take a whole lot to run. So you can kind of gut that old computer, wipe off all the windows and all the stuff, all the updates, and put on Chrome, and it'll give some new life to that computer. But who's the number one person to complain about that? Our technicians. Right? Our technicians are told, we're taking 400 of your old junky computers out, and we're giving you 400 brand new Chromebooks that shouldn't have to be touched very much. And they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And I'm saying, wait, can I grab those 400 and make them Chromebooks and put them right back in? And they're like, no, we're getting rid of those. That's more work on me. And I'm as much as I try to sell it, no, if it breaks, we toss it for real. No, Ryan, we're not going to do that. So I haven't made that hurdle yet. But you got to find somewhere to get those extra devices. And the last one is probably the most important, is teacher professional development. You can't just say, okay, teachers, let your kids bring your devices, and then you go, walk away and you're done. You want to give those teachers best practices. You want to give them the paperwork. You want to talk them through not to be dependent on apps, because if you're using an app, it may not work on every device. And we had this plan, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. We planned it out all last spring, planned it out some more this summer, and then fall rolls around. Oh, I guess I jumped the process here. So our process was I took all of our data to our assistant superintendent. She took it to cabinet, which was our other assistant superintendents and our superintendent. He was on board. We had a school policy at my school, no phones. He'd walk through our classroom. Kid would be on a phone. He'd be like, that's awesome. I'm glad you're using that. And he'd walk through. And so our teachers were like, we have a policy, and he's breaking it. But he's the superintendent, so what are you going to say to him? No, Mr. Holt, you can't do that. But he took it to the board members. They were on board. Then they took it to the principals. The principals, we right now are only doing 5 secondary schools and 2 elementary schools. So we just needed to kind of sell it to them. And they were pretty much on board. They knew it was kind of coming. Secondary was much more hesitant than the elementary. The elementary really wanted it because they have a tech committee. They're all excited. They've been wanting to do it for a while. But secondary, especially middle school, they know that kids in middle school do strange things. And so they thought, that's just another discipline issue I'm going to have to deal with. And in some ways it is, but in some ways it's a lot better. So we kind of talked them through, and the next thing we did was look for flexible teachers. That was the biggest thing for me. So my dream was 5 secondaries, 2 elementaries, and then we get 5 teachers from each site just to start, and we'll go from there. Well, we got 7 from one site and 3 from another, so it all worked out pretty well. And I wanted to do this teacher professional development with them, but that didn't really work. So we did a lot of email back and forth. And then the last thing I wanted to do was do a parent meeting. And I wanted to have an auditorium like this, have a vendor come, do a little presentation. I would do my spiel, and then at the end they can buy cheaper, lower priced devices if they wanted to on the website or at the event. But with only 35-ish classes involved, having parent night seemed kind of silly. And the vendor's like, I'm not coming to your parent night for 35 families, or 35 teachers' families. It's like, this is not worth it for me. Especially when you think about a vendor, when they're selling a Chromebook, they're not making very much money because they're cheap. And so I crossed out the parent meeting because it just never happened. So the parent communication part came with you're the teacher at back to school night. That's where you kind of sell the program. And it was hit and miss. Some parents were totally on board, and some parents thought, this is a weird thing, I'm not sure what to do. So this is where my teacher professional development came in. Over summer, I created a screencast, and then it's me talking. If you really want to hear me talk more, you can listen to it, but I'm not going to play it here. And then that's me with a group of teachers before school. My plan, give me these teachers for half a day. We'll do something like this, but less me talking and more them doing things, and we'll figure out how it works. And so instead it became this, me talking to them, asking them questions, and we brainstorm a list of their potential issues. So it actually was sort of good in that way because it was just a conversation. So they came up with this list of issues. Hey, the first thing that almost all of them talked about was device size. But phones are too small. Ryan, phones are way too small. And I kept saying, it's not for them. It's too small for me, but it's not for them. I'd rather have an iPad. I'd rather have a computer. I'd rather have a keyboard. But this video is of a kid writing a blog on Google Docs without a problem. And now, it's looping, so she's not continually typing. But she went to town. And other kids had bigger devices, and they had split their keyboards. They had 2 thumbs going. It's amazing. They maybe can't type, but they sure can text. So they had no problem. But that was a big hurdle I had to get over with the teachers. It's like, they're fine with it. And then equity was an issue. So we kind of talked about if they don't bring a computer, what are you going to use? Power. One I hadn't even thought about was power, right? If a kid comes in without their device charged, what do you do? Because you don't have a plug. If you bring a Chromebook to me, I've got plugs for days because we have thousands of Chromebooks. But if you bring me an Android device, I've got one plug, and I'm not going to give it up because it's mine. So the kids have to come in with power, their device charged up, and potentially bring that charger back and forth, right? When I flew out here, I recharged my phone 3 times because it dies. You're using it so much. We had to worry about apps. Like they all wanted to know what apps are going to be the best ones for me to use in my classroom. And I kept saying, you don't want apps. But Ryan, I want to do this, this, and this. What's the best app? You don't want apps. And so it was kind of a hurdle that they had to get over. Bandwidth we already talked about. And then, of course, digital citizenship came up. And spun it as positively as possible. This is an opportunity for you to teach your kids from an early age about digital citizenship and what you do online stays online and all this stuff. And so that's something that they're still working with. Now, one I hadn't really considered, which was my bad, was storage and theft. Where the teachers put it so that they're not stolen. Right? When I was a high school teacher, I would hear stories about kids who had their phones stolen in PE. And I'm like, you gotta lock your locker. I did lock my locker, mister. Someone stole my phone. Okay. Go ask the coach. And then they send them back all mad. So we got to figure out a place to put those. So my thought on that one is hopefully we can get like some empty computer carts as we start to dole out the carts for extra devices. Maybe they store them in one of those locked cabinets in PE. But when I was secondary, I was middle school and I was high school. Never taught elementary. So I talked to these elementary teachers and like, what do we do with the devices in the morning? I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you do with the devices in the morning? Kid has it in their pocket. No, it's in their backpack. Well, tell them to put it in their pocket. No, it's in their backpack. They drop their backpack off here, and then they go to the blacktop to play. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm a secondary mindset, so these elementary school teachers talked me through it. And we eventually had to talk to the principals, and they had to have a whole new flow for this class, right? They had to come in, they went through the classroom, they took out their device, they put it into a cabinet, and they went back outside, and they went to the playground. And I'm like, I had no idea. So that's a whole new workload for your teacher, too. So the teacher, that's the flexibility. All of a sudden, this teacher had to be there in the morning, open the cabinet, be there while they dropped off their devices, and then push them out the door to go play so they can have some prep time. So things I had to worry about that I hadn't even thought about. And then the same thing with parents. Right, with parents, I had to go over that with the parents at back-to-school night saying, this is what we need you to do. And then the top one is the most important thing on my side of the house. We don't touch the device, right? Cute little third grader sitting there almost in tears because she can't type in our password. Our password is ridiculous. I'm not going to say it out loud right now because we're on video, but it's ridiculous. I want our password to be dog or school or Wi-Fi, but it's not. It's 3 words crammed together, all lowercase, and when a third grader or fourth grader or senior has to type it in and it goes to ... and we have multiple letters that are the same, and my gosh, I type it in wrong half the time. So that's hard, but we don't want to touch the device because that puts liability on us. So the device breaks 2 weeks later. Well, what happened? You took it to school and now it doesn't work. Well, my teacher, your teacher did it. So we're just trying to avoid it altogether by not touching it. Now, I would love to say that that's happening everywhere. It's not. Teachers are going to touch it. Right? I was told all the time not to use devices in the classroom, and in my classroom, kids have their phones out. Teachers do what they have to survive the day. And if a kid's about to cry because they can't type in the password and you can quickly do it, they do it. But on paper, we say we don't, and we advise that you don't. So some storage things that I've seen that are pretty successful, having a basket in the middle of a table of 4. The one here with that circle that's crammed into a desk, I had her pose that one. That's not how they store them. I was like, why don't you do that for me for a picture? But that's probably a bad way to do it. In the cabinet, but a lot of people have those big metal cabinets that have locks. So that's where this teacher stored them. And I was like, well, what do they do? She holds it up. She's like, whose is this? Whose is this? They all come up to get them. The one thing about the basket, you want to be careful when they put them in there just so they don't crack screens. I had teachers email me what they do. I try to email the teachers every 3 weeks just to say, how's it going? Need some help? I'd love to come out and give you help. And so I took a bunch of their emails and I wordled it. I never have found a good use for Wordle, so I thought I'd try it out. So devices, student, Google, all pop up obviously. And then paper is kind of big up there. A lot of our teachers are raving about how they're using less paper. I was like, that's good, right? Yeah, it's great. Work is on there. A lot of the teachers have said that they're amazed at how much the kids are working when they're on their own device. Even if it's, most of our teachers are at the S of the SAMR model. They're just taking their worksheets and they're putting them on a Google Doc, okay? But that's step 1, right? Now they can start to create as we go along and get better. So this is in the slideshow. If you want to see it later on, you can kind of zoom in on the smaller words if you want to. And I told my teachers, you may see this, right? Some Instagram, some Snapchat, some texting. It's going to happen. But if you don't think it's happening in your classroom right now, you're kidding yourself, right? All the time. Hey, they're texting their friend. I don't really care if a kid sends off a text to their friend of where they're going to meet at lunch if they're doing my Google Doc along the way. Okay? They're going to do that anyway, so I might as well get them moving along. So you will see some of this, but you'll also see a lot of this, right? Kids playing Kahoot. They love Kahoot. Now, don't over Kahoot. Okay? You can definitely over Kahoot and turn off the volume after a while. Kids blogging on that little phone. They're blogging away. And then collaboration. Our assistant superintendent of instruction was real big on one-to-one devices that she had got to the point where she didn't really want them. And I was like, well, I'm a technology person. What are you talking about? And she said, well, when they're on their device, they don't talk. She wants like a 2-to-1. I was like, well, okay. But so I try to talk her into, hey, they're collaborating. They're just collaborating on the document. So we want to keep the collaboration going on. And then this is pretty funny. As I go around the schools, I see lots of this, right? If any of you have teenagers, you may have seen the same thing. I've thankfully, knock on wood, have never cracked a screen on my own. My daughter's cracked one of my screens. My wife has cracked a couple of her screens, but thankfully for me, I haven't. But this one here on the right is horrible, right? You could cut your thumb on the top right corner of it. And so I said to the kid, hey, what'd you do? Well, I put it in my back pocket, and I sat down for lunch, and it cracked. It's like, well, that's pretty bad. Well, I've done it more than once. Oh, okay. So I guess they didn't figure out to put it in a different pocket. But the kids are pretty resilient, and they just keep using their phones. So here's a link for the documents. Again, it's on the presentation, so you can type it in now, or you can get it later. It's just a folder. It has all of our stuff. So it's got our acceptable use policy, which I'm sure you all have one anyway. I didn't want to go through the trouble of rewriting ours because in our district, I'm not sure how it is for everybody else. If we change our acceptable use policy, it has to go through the teachers union and then through the school board. So what I did for BYOD is I made a BYOD addendum, which didn't have to go through all those things. So if you're a BYOD teacher, you get an extra piece of paper. They send that home and bring it back. Because our parents all signed all these documents, here's your stack of papers the first day of school, sign everything and bring it back. So the BYOD teachers send it back, or most of them send them out on back to school night. So they had a conversation, here's this document, read it over. It has a lot of the, worry about theft, worry about safety of your device. Teachers won't touch the device. We won't be app specific. It goes through a lot of the main points on there so they have a chance to read it and actually understand it before they send it in. It has a BYOD mobile device chart, which kind of gives you some ideas of what is good and what's not. I thought as a parent, Kindle Fire is awesome. $50, it's a tablet, goes online, it's small, but then I saw it in use in the classroom. And you guys know what Kindle Fires can't do? Can't download Google Docs. It doesn't have an app. So I can view a Google Doc all day long, but I can't create anything. And to me, if I can't create it, it's pretty worthless. So I used to have Kindle Fire as a 4-star on my little chart. Now it's, I think, a 2-star. It's a nice device. And it's great to have for a kid, but it won't work if you're a Google district for sure. Other things that are in there is like how we get on our Wi-Fi. Just having a half sheet of paper up on a wall because the kids will forget. So put it up on your wall. I put the stoplight in there if you want that. You can use that too. So they're all up there. You can use them whatever you want. I also put this as on here. I had this in our documents. We currently are not offering insurance to our parents. We have a very small pilot right now. But Worth Avenue Group is kind of the leader in this. If I look at the numbers here for a 16 gig iPad 2, which is a $400 value, as a parent, I have to pay $50 deductible if it breaks, plus I'm paying $37.10 a year. So to me, as a parent, I'm thinking, I buy a $37 case, and I tell my kid if she breaks it, she's in big trouble, and we'll probably be okay. So for me right now, insurance wasn't worth it, but I know a lot of districts that are. Like if you had a $1,200 MacBook, $100 a year, $100 deductible, maybe that's worth it. But for an iPad, for a tablet, I don't think it's worth it. Especially if you're a Google district, I highly encourage you to go and get Android tablets because they work with Google. And then here's my little last story. So I went into a classroom, teacher on special assignment and myself, we went into the classroom for 1 full hour. Super excited teacher. First time we're ever going to use Google Docs. Come in, or we're going to use BYOD. Come on in and let's see how it goes. Great, fired up. Took a bunch of those pictures. And she's passing out the devices. Okay, go to classroom. There's a document there for you to edit. Let's go. And so, kids are going. I'm like, this is awesome. Taking a MacBook over here, Kindle Fire over here, Android tablet, fantastic. And then, noise level starts to rise. And I'm like, this teacher has no discipline in this classroom. What's going on? And what was happening was none of them could edit the doc. I mean, a few of them could, but most of them couldn't, because if they had the Docs app, their parent was logged in. And if they had a Kindle Fire, they couldn't. And some of them couldn't get on Wi-Fi, so it was starting to be this huge mess. And so we kind of stopped. We worked for an hour. This is the flexible teacher part. Literally, it was 1 hour from start to when we left, and it was a mess. And we got down to the point where it was open your notes section of your tablet, wherever your notes are, type it up in there, and email it to your teacher, right? Not at all what she had planned. But she went with the flow. And then we gave out homework at the end of the period. Okay, tonight, parents' homework. Download Google Classroom, download Google Docs, Google Slides, and log in as your school ID. Don't log in as your personal ID. Don't have your mom or dad log in. Because none of the kids know the Apple ID for good reason, right? I'm not going to give my kid my Apple ID because then she's going to download some games. She's going to start paying for things. I don't want that. So flexibility is huge, and that's what, if you're going to be a BYOD teacher, or if you're going to be pushing it in your district, that's what you want to go for. One district that we interviewed for this whole thing, they said that middle school was a great place to start. And so that's interesting. Well, why do you say that? Because they see the strangest things every day. So if they have an issue with a computer, it's not a big deal. I say, well, that's a good point. I taught middle school for a lot, and you see some weird things, right? Middle school, they're not fully developed yet. Their brain isn't really functioning. Sometimes you look at a middle schooler and you say, what are you thinking? And you realize they're not thinking, they're just doing things. So that's all I've got. Again, that link will take you to this presentation, which has the links. Do you have a question? This one or the docs? Oh, okay. I'll fix that right now. Any other questions? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.